Yes, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Mom.
Can you read it?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. So we're streaming now, right?
We are streaming.
Okay, great. Let's see what happens if I go here. Would you just check? I never did check if you can hear me outside.
Oh, I can
Did you
hear
check?
you outside, but I'll check now, yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you, Mouse. Thank you, Mouse. Thank you, Mouse. Welcome here to Sorting this happy Wednesday, May 27th, beautiful sunshine. This is what it looks like outside, as you can see. Lovely, I guess it's still spring, but it feels like summer day. It's warm outside. People are walking around in t-shirts. And I'm still sorting. Still trying to figure out how to place objects so they make sense, place objects so they have a sense of order, but as Doug himself mentioned to me, Doug Jarvis, curator of this activity that I'm doing, not to try to beautify too much, Art is many things, and of course it can be beautiful, but I don't want to have an insistence on beauty. I don't want to try to make what I'm doing a kind of beautification of objects, although they do have a certain rhythm and aesthetic to them. But whether it's beautiful is really in the eye of the beholder. And the eye also of people who are part of who decides about what is beautiful, what is art, what is contemporary art, what qualifies as art. Which in itself is a kind of sorting, a kind of way of saying, I'm using a lens, the lens of an art critic, to decide what is, quotations, good art and what is not. And what is art that moves you, what is art that affects you, what is art that is easy to understand, easy to interpret, hits right away, or art that you have to chew on a little bit like this before it starts to make sense. And it seems like, and this is obviously not true of all people, but it seems like that in the culture we live in the Western world, chewing on stuff is not really what people are doing. They want visual information, they want it 24/7, and they want to be able to understand it easily. Dealing with nuance, with ambiguity, with contradiction, with subtlety, is not encouraged by the cyber universe that we inhabit these days. It has to be this or this, and you have to like it or not like it with your thumb. So that's a kind of sorting that's pretty, not only binary, but kind of coarse in its understanding, because things are rarely this or this. Sometimes they're this, that, and another thing. And so sorting becomes more complex, just as the actions that I'm doing here in this beautiful little room that's been created for artists. Trying to resonate with the truck going by. While it is beautiful out there, it's also kind of noisy. Fort Street, where open space is located, is a thoroughfare in this city. It's one way. And people come from the water, which is just down here. See that? That's the water there. The inner harbor. It's called the inner harbor. The reason it's called the inner harbor because it is an inner harbor. Here's a linen and uniform guy. I suppose I should have put my artist uniform on today. Artists would have a certain kind of look as a result of it. Here's a guy dropping by with 3 books. Come on in. You want to come in?
Hey, what is this all about?
Well, that's a good question. This is an art center, open space. You know about open space?
Yeah.
It's on the 2nd floor.
Oh,
Okay. And they've recently taken over this downstairs space as well.
okay.
And they're offering this space, which I'm in right now.
Yeah.
We're live streaming.
Gotcha, yeah.
For artists to do what they want.
Yeah.
So just about sorting. That's what it's called, sorting.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's something that we all do.
Yeah, sort things.
Sort things all the time.
Yeah.
And when we're not sorting things, which we do, all of us,
Yeah.
we're sorting ideas, we're sorting our friends,
Yeah.
we're constantly,
Yeah.
what's in this category, what's in this category, what's in this category. So the idea was to look at 50 years of my art practice
Yeah.
and try to make sense out of it. And when you get old like me, it's also about archives,
Yeah.
what to sort, what to keep. I
Right.
had the experience of people your age whose parents are artists and they die.
Yeah.
And there's all this art and they didn't make any understanding of what to do with it. There's all
Yeah.
these paintings or manuscripts or, you
Yeah.
know.
And what's your artwork? Like, what do you do for art?
Well, I'm trying to do this. It's going to turn into some kind of performance at some point.
Right.
It'll be more formal. People will come and sit down and something will happen.
Yeah.
Right now I'm just experimenting. I'm just sorting shit.
Gotcha.
Here's some cables that have been sorted.
And in the past, what like kind of artwork have you done?
Well, I actually started as a video artist
Yeah.
many years ago when not that many people had access to video. There were no iPhones, no
Yeah.
internet, no nothing. So you had to have a proper camera and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And now to say I'm a video artist, which was at one point very kind of avant-garde.
Yeah.
Now it's a joke because every YouTuber thinks of themselves as a video artist.
Right. Yeah. But maybe it's kind of lost some of its magic through
Yeah,
having so much access to it.
I think that's true. And the other part of it is that everybody's got access. Anybody that has a phone
Yeah.
is a video artist, basically. And it seems like we have an ability to communicate historically like we've never had before, but we don't have much to say.
Yeah.
That's the sad
That's a
part
good-
about it.
good point.
It's all reduced to
Yeah.
hate and argumentative comments and insulting people. I mean, it's not all reduced to that, let's be fair.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, sadly. Well, what are you doing with your life?
Just walking around right now. Bought some books.
Ah, okay. New or used?
This one I found in a free library.
Okay.
And these,
You bought.
I read The Catcher in the Rye already,
Uh-huh.
but I love this cover.
It is. Let's see. Oh yeah, that is a great cover.
It's a good cover. And
Young people reading Catcher in the Rye. That's amazing.
oh, yeah, my dad told me to read it.
Uh-huh.
But I actually really like it. It's
Yeah.
a good book. Yeah. I'm on a gap year, so I went to Japan earlier. Now I'm going to Europe, and then I'm going to university in the fall.
Cool. What are you taking?
I'm just gonna take as much as I can.
Okay.
And stuff.
So you're coming out of high school or coming out of
High school.
Okay. Wow, you're pretty sophisticated for coming out of high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. You gonna go to UVic?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Just take a general BA and see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I got into the School of Science, but
Okay.
I want to take everything. Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, a decent amount of science classes, so I have like the prerequisites if I want
For
to
a
keep
science
doing it.
degree, yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm not sure if I want to do science, so I'm gonna sign up for history and
Take an art class, even
Yes,
one, just
totally.
Yeah.
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 I was thinking about doing like a minor in music.
Uh-huh.
'Cause-
Do you play music?
Yeah.
Ah,
lots
cool.
of music.
Uh-huh. In a band?
No.
Oh.
Just yeah, I play with my friends.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we have a band.
Okay.
but we play music together. And,
Oh, take a music course. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it was nice talking.
Likewise. Thank you for
Have a
stopping
great
by.
day.
You too.
Thanks.
Interesting young dude, just out of high school and already pretty sophisticated guy. And reading books, no less. Who his age, he's probably around 20 or so, or a little younger. And he's reading books. Wow. So maybe these friends of mine who tell me that books are not dead, that people are still going to read books, maybe they are right. Because my own feeling is it's over for books. It's just a matter of time, and the economy of scale is not there anymore. Bookstores are closing everywhere. People are reading pretty much everything online. And yet I hear these stories about how reading books are still interesting, they're portable, there's a feel to them, there's even a smell to them. And when I'm so-called on holiday, whatever that means, when I'm in a situation where I don't have to be on for any reason, I find myself reading books. But I'm old, I've read books all my life. I have hundreds of books. Seems like young people don't look to collect books anymore. And you have to wonder, what is the point of collecting books anyway? I mean, I've got shelves of books, but what does that mean? I don't put them on display like some people do. I just keep them in my office. Some people use their books as a form of bragging about their intellect or whatever, or look at what I've read, or look at what I've collected. That's a kind of form of sorting too. Sorting words into sentences that then form impressions, and those impressions trigger our imaginations. And I suppose that's the beauty of novels, and for that matter, nonfiction, where these symbols on a piece of paper created from some kind of manuscript at some point pass from the page into the brains and imaginations and minds of people who are reading. It's the beauty of literature, I guess. And the beauty of communicating in that way. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, it seems like we're moving away from the word again, back to a visual culture, back to a world where the image is already important, but it seems to be becoming more important, whether accompanied by words or not. I'm just going to have a sip of water here. Sometimes people, actually more than sometimes these days, everybody is describing themselves as an interdisciplinary artist. And sometimes I think it's a very Western way of thinking, that artists have a discipline and they train in that discipline and that's all they know and that's all they understand. And interdisciplinarity is supposed to be some kind of sense of merging these things together and creating something new. But it's still based on artistic disciplines, which are kind of a Western way of sorting. Not all cultures in the world sort that way. Although others do, and maybe it's a question that some artists sort that way and other artists don't. So you can be, a silversmith and a musician, and you can still write novels and so on at the same time. So it might be more useful to think of the way artists in which they create in terms of the gesture, the sound, the image, the word, and the screen. A couple of people a little minorly interested here, looking at little signs that I've pinned up there. Let's see what they react. She's laughing at me, naturally. Now there's another guy sitting outside there. Many years ago, but I can't seem to let go of the jars. It's a little bit sick. This is when people question my credibility as an artist. I just show them that. It's meant to be kind of a joke. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, what I was saying is that there might be a way of looking at art practice in terms of the gesture, the sound, the image, the word, and in the contemporary world we live in, the screen as well. So that art forms are not broken down so much by discipline, but by what gestures are being made to create them. So when you think of a gesture, the first thing immediately comes to mind is a dancer who's moving their body and making gestures. But visual artists also make gestures when they paint, when they sculpt, and musicians as well. If they're playing music, they're moving, they're making gestures. If even a writer, if they're not writing longhand like people did when they made manuscripts, they're typing and tapping into a keyboard somewhere. And sounds, there's sounds that accompany, obviously here you think of music right away, and even contemporary composers that don't think of themselves as making music, but making sounds. But again, other artists make sounds as well. The tapping of the keyboard, the sound of the brush on the canvas, the sounds that people make in theater. So it's just a different way of thinking about how arts could integrate themselves and how a sound could be something that crosses all disciplines, or a gesture could be. And then the fifth one, the idea of a screen, it's sort of the one that doesn't fit, what doesn't fit in this list here, because it's not necessarily something that artists do, like a sound or an image or a gesture or even a word. But it seems like it's ubiquitous, and it seems like it's become part of many artists' production, both from the point of view of how they produce art, how they distribute it, how they archive it. So I just have included it in this way of thinking. And you could even argue, again, to show just how complex it can become, that the word itself, the word on a printed page or the word written out in by longhand, is a kind of image. And when you make it, it's a kind of sound. And when you make it, it's a kind of gesture. And it's often seen on a screen. So in that sense, when you break it down in terms of the form and the certain actions and sounds that people are making, it's a different way of looking at interdisciplinarity, and not insisting upon the idea that there are rigid disciplines. I don't think most contemporary artists think that way. And I think a lot of people, they may be trained in the visual arts, or they may be trained as a musician, but they want to move into other areas and make a musician who wants to have a screen behind her and have images on the screen that either she or somebody else might have created for them. It's not, strictly speaking, just a musician anymore. Or to turn it the other way, someone who's working on computer-generated images on a screen wants to have some music, and so they turn to a musician to help them to do this, or a visual artist, or whatever it turns out to be. Just a different way of thinking about interdisciplinarity, and I think it's more historically the way human beings of all backgrounds and cultures and races thought. They would cultivate the skills in more than one so-called discipline. And I think going into the future, it's also a way of thinking about the arts. So back to sorting and thinking about sorting and wondering, how is there a way that we can stop sorting? Is there a way that, can there be moments which are not about sorting, that is not about trying to make objects, ideas, words, feelings sorted into different categories? I suppose that's what people do when they try to meditate, or even if they're not officially meditating or using a technique of breathing to meditate, they're just sitting by the river or under a tree, or even in their living room in their favorite chair, just looking out the window. That's kind of a not sorting state of mind. And it seems like, to me anyway, in the Western cultures that we live in, being in a not sorting state of mind is a good thing to do. Because the constant sorting is, not only is it tiring, it's keeping us from that other state, that meditative state. I think of it less as meditation, because I don't want to make this about, oh, you have to meditate and you have to be mindful. It's a space of, well, it's a relaxed space, and it's a place of reflection. Maybe that's a better word than meditation. It's a place where your thoughts come to you, your feelings come to you, your body reacts to the space you're in, but you don't try to make a sorting sense of it. You just allow the experience of it to overcome you. And a lot of times when I do that, I fall asleep, which speaks to how tired I am, and how tired I am of the sorting and the constant being on. Whether it's meeting with other people, or meeting on Zoom, or doing what I'm doing right now, or just generally having to be on, which is a feeling that a lot of people feel. And as you get older, you're less inclined to want to do it. You're less inclined to feel that this is something that's necessary for your life. I suppose in a way that's what people do. That's why they retire, in quotations. They retired themselves because they're retired. And that sense of like, okay, I can wake up and not actually know what I'm going to do today, because I have the freedom to organize the day in a certain way. That's the feeling of being retired. And I think all of us, regardless of where we are in our lives, whatever age we are, in whatever state we are, could just use a little more retired time. so that we're not retired, we're more awake, we're more in the moment, in that reflective space. I'll be back in a second. I'm going to go and get some notes that I made. Well, I don't seem to have the notes. Well, that's okay, I can kind of remember them. One of the things I wanted to think about in sorting was the attachment that we have towards, oh, here's some people looking in. The attachment that we have towards objects. This idea that human beings collect stuff. It's not really clear why we do, but we seem to do it across cultures. It's really only nomadic people that don't collect stuff. People have stuff in their homes, all kinds of stuff. And what is that compulsion to collect? What is that compulsion that human beings have about their relationship to objects and why they keep some and don't keep others? Why does one thing become sacred and cherished and even handed down through generations and other stuff just goes in the dumpster? And it has to do with this idea of sentiment and sentimentality. How an object can recall either an experience or a person. I keep objects from my own mom, who passed away, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that now. And it's still, I find it hard to get rid of them. I have some here, some COVID tests. You can see them there. And I don't know why I kept them really. There's 2 that are marked positive, all the rest are negative. And the 2 that are marked positive mark those moments in my life when I actually had COVID. I had it and my partner had it as well. It was terrible. And those markers, they're the 2 that have the double lines on them. Our memory of that, it's not a particularly good memory, but it puts in context by having all the other ones that are negative, how many times I didn't have COVID. So, all those COVID tests and others that I haven't put out there. Are evidence of history. And maybe one day I will throw them all away, but I'll probably keep the 2 that have the double line, which were the ones, the twice when we did have COVID, and the memory of that. It's not really sentimentality, because I don't feel sentimental towards COVID, but it's a memory jog. It brings back the feeling of having COVID. And also the feeling that we all went through of testing all the time. Oh, I've got the sniffles. Let's all quickly test to make sure you don't have COVID. 1, because you wanted to know, but 2, because you didn't want to hurt other human beings. And you didn't want to give anybody else COVID, even though someone had given it to you. In any case, I'm sidebarring here into a COVID conversation. The point I was trying to get at was the idea of collecting and the idea of our human relationship to things and how that gets played out in a society that is very hyper-capitalist, where so much of the meaning that we make in our daily lives is through the objects that we possess. Whether it's the clothes that we wear, the car that we drive, the way we present ourselves with makeup and hair and all these elements that are about the presentation of self. And if we didn't have this hyper kind of dependency on commodities that are for sale all the time in a capitalist society, what would we collect? Well, some people collect rocks or feathers or other natural flowers, for example, and imbue that with meaning that is not part of the exchange system that we live in. So they didn't have to buy anything, and they're unlikely to, I mean, how much value does a stone have? It could have a lot of value if it's imbued, you know, the day that so-and-so was here and we went for a walk, and then this amazing thing happened with an animal and blah, 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 and I kept the stone from that day. But that has probably no value on the marketplace. You won't see on Facebook Marketplace, you won't see on Kijiji or any other site a stone for sale, special sacred stone for sale. Doesn't make sense. And yet people have them, and they hold those meetings. Now there's people laughing outside. Let's see if they're laughing at me. So what is that about? What is that about the way we give meaning to objects that other species don't do? They change their value to us. They change what they mean to us. Or, you know, that penny, or I guess we don't have pennies anymore, that loonie that you found on the street one day, that you take it and you take it home and you don't spend it because it's the one you found on the street. And there's millions of examples of what I'm saying. Another way of looking at it is the way children approach objects. I'm not talking about children that want certain toys or so on. Maybe like a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old even, that the famous stories about how they're given a present and they don't play with the present, they play with the box that the present came in. So the object has not, the child has not yet been taught to value the commodity that's inside the box. They're in a state of play. And when we're in a state of play, whether we're a child or an adult, I think we sort differently. We don't ascribe those sentimental values. We sort, you know, where the trucks are going to go, or where the dolls are going to go, or how we're going to construct some little house that we're making out of wood. And we don't sort with the idea of organization. We sort in the context of play. It's a different kind of sorting. It's a kind of sorting that we should encourage, that should be more part of our lives than it is there, and there, and it is there, and there, and there, where? There. Okay, enough of that. Just thought I'd lean into it for a second. Can't help myself. Because I have to sort the sound. And sometimes that's a more appropriate sound. Did he stop moving? He's still moving. So it didn't freeze. The image didn't freeze. He's still moving. That's how you can tell. But would I be able to fool you, trick you into believing that it had frozen? The other way we sort meaning is in our communication with one another. There was a time in human history where not only did we not have the printed word, we didn't really even have language. We just lived. And we lived in mostly moving tribal societies. And then we started developing utterances or sounds that we connected to things or spaces. You know, the sun became something. It was a sound, blah, and that was the sun. And we got one step removed from the experience of the sun. We could still experience it. Obviously, we could still experience it today, but we were talking about it to another person by describing, today's a very sunny day here in Victoria, describing what we saw in the sky and whether it was out this day or not this day. So we developed language, different kinds of languages depending where we were on the planet, but we developed a way of speaking, first by sounds and then by sentences and words, which kept us still close to the thing itself, but also one step abstracted from it. And then, as time went on, people started taking that sound and trying to write it down, whether they wrote it down on the wall of a cave or in the sand, or finally on something resembling the paper that we use today. And then, of course, along came the printing press, and we became even more abstracted from the thing itself. So the sorting process that we used in order to communicate went through 2 steps of removal, semiotically, from the thing itself. And now we live in a world where not only can we have that way of communicating something 2 steps removed, we have words, written words or electronic words, that stand in for the spoken word that stands in for the thing itself. So we're twice removed. And even in a novel, we're twice removed when we're reading the word. So actually now we're probably 3 times removed, because we've got an abstraction on a screen of something that's written, of something that was spoken, of the thing itself. And what's a little bit strange about the world we live in now is we can no longer tell if what we see or hear is actually real. Is it actually a real, I mean, I don't need to tell anybody listening to this. We can create whatever we want, whether it's real or not. And that can be used as a powerful creative force to create new images, new environments, new worlds that people can inhabit. But it also can be used to trick people, to make them believe they see a sound or hear something that didn't actually happen, that didn't actually occur, that doesn't exist anywhere. And Walter Benjamin once wrote that art, and this was in the age of mechanical reproduction, so we're talking, I think he wrote that famous essay in the late 30s, if I'm right. And he talked about how art moves from ritual with the printing press and mass reproduction of books and so on, moves from the printing press and moves from ritual to politics. Art changes from being based on ritual and is based on politics. And we certainly see that today. The idea of ritual is very diminished in Western cultures, and the idea of politics is to the forefront. It's involving every single day, and more every single action that human beings partake in. Benjamin was very prescient to see that and to try to understand it from his perspective long before there was electronic communication. So, time for a sip of water. I just want to also at this moment check to see the live stream is working properly. And it is. Where it's on a bit of a delay system, so you can see my screen here. So when I say something, it's on a bit of a delay system, so you can see my screen here. So when I say something, it's on a bit of a delay system, so you can see my screen here. If I speak these words, if I speak these words, if I speak words. I can layer in 7-second intervals these words. So let's try to keep layering these words, these words, these words, 7-second these words, these words. So let's try to keep layering these words, these words, these words, 7-second these words, these words. So let's try to keep layering these words, these words, these words, 7-second these words, these words. So let's try to keep layering these words, these words, these words, these words. I guess I have to say it for 7 seconds for it to work. These words, 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 kind of set up my own video feedback, but using a live stream to do it. Kind of set up my own video feedback, but using a live stream to do it. Kind of set up my own video feedback. If I turn my audio off, the whole thing just stops completely. And you're watching me 7 seconds after I speak. It gives the same thing in broadcast television, so they can edit out the swear words or whatever, some kind of image that they don't want to broadcast to the world. Just gonna check my phone, I'll be right back. Everything seems to be in order on my phone. It seems to be working the way it is, actually, which is interesting. So, to try to bring this hour to a kind of conclusion, conclusion's the wrong word, because I can't seem to conclude anything about it other than to ask questions which then provoke other questions. Like, why do we have a compulsion to collect things? Why do we have a compulsion? Animals sort. They sort to exist just like we do. But they don't necessarily collect stuff, not in the same way. They collect stuff in the sense of use value, to make a nest or to make a place to sleep, or to figure out something to eat, and in some cases to kill something, or to move to another place where there's plants that they want to eat. Generally speaking, they don't collect things. I'd be curious to know if other primates do. I don't know about that. But do other primates keep things and make them, I wouldn't say sacred necessarily, but just make them special, give them meaning beyond their obvious meaning, their immediate meaning. So conclusion is the wrong word. It's more a question of coming to the end of a beat, exploring this by just sorting. The sense, a friend of mine said to me the other day that when we sort through something, it gives us a certain sense of relief. It's as if we needed to do it so we could get rid of some of the stuff. But then I wonder why, if we have to do sorting to get rid of stuff, why do we collect it in the first place? And maybe it comes down to more discretionary saving. And yet, as an artist, and many artists that I know, I'm hardly the only one who does this, we save all kinds of stuff that doesn't even really make sense. It doesn't really, this is the tape that my colleague and the technician working on this piece with me, it's the plastic that comes off double-sided tape. And I just made a pile of it here, like a little mini installation, which is part of the beautification. And why would I keep that? These are napkins that I've used. Why would I keep them? Where are they? Yeah, there they are. Yeah, they are. A little pile of napkins. Would I actually keep them forever? Would I actually keep them as long as I'm alive? Probably not. But they form part of what I'm doing here at this table. These are the labels that came off my totes. Let's see, where are they? There they are. Thank you for tuning in. If you've been out there, thank you for listening, for being curious enough to stay with it. I appreciate my audiences a lot. So if there's anybody out there, I appreciate you. Thank you.